Welcome to the reading for the 13th of December, 2025. And everywhere you look, people are dashing around, buying stuff for the holiday season, and it's good, but it gets kind of hectic. However, we've all been there, we've all done that, and it's very easy to criticize people for doing different things, and that's what today's reading is all about. It's about judgment or non-judgment, if you like. He's actually called it Let Go of Judgment, which, as all of you know, it's something much easier said than done. And the first quote is from the Christian scriptures, used to be called the New Testament, from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, paragraphs 1 and 2. And this is, I don't know if I would have picked this one, but anyway, he did. So it says, "Do not judge, or you will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." Okay, so in the previous life, I would have taken that to mean, hey, God is taking notes, and if I judge other people, then at some stage, God's going to judge me and I'll get punished for it. But I look at it differently now. I still obviously don't think it's right to judge other people, correct? But the way I look at it is this is a universe of cause and effect. So if you judge other people, then there's going to be some reciprocity somewhere in the system, and it will come back and either remind you or whatever about it. So that's a different way I look at it now, because it is a universe of cause and effect. Not just physical laws like Newton, action and reaction are equal and opposite and so on, but it's a universe of cause and effect. So, and that applies, I think, in the spiritual realm as well. So ultimately, the things we do will either come back to us, or we will learn to let go of that stuff and just let it all go, including judgment. But it's not an easy thing, right? I think Ernest Holmes is kind of nearer the mark in the Science of Mind textbook when he says, "No one can be happy who lives in a continuous state of condemnation of people, conditions, and things. We must learn to praise and not to condemn." And that, to me, is much more to the point. No one can be happy who lives in a continuous state of condemnation of people, conditions, and things. We must learn to praise and not condemn. So in other words, the very act of judging others takes us out of a good state of mind, which is not good for us, as well as not being good for other people. So I like the Ernest Holmes quote a lot better, because to me, it's more to the point on how life works. And this is Rev Michael Gott, who says, "I've got a dear friend who is an incredible spiritual teacher and facilitator. He sometimes jokingly says, 'I don't judge, I observe with disdain.'" That's cute. He says, "It's funny because we all know it's impossible to live in this human world without sometimes falling into judgment." He says, "We may use spiritual words or even frame a bit of gossip in a prayer request, but if we reflect, we can say we're still judging." Saints and mystics of many traditions have shown us that the path to freedom is to witness the unfolding nature without attachment to the outcome. Says that doesn't mean that we don't get angry when our boundaries are violated or when we observe harm being done to the innocent. Anger is an emotional energy that can get our attention or move us into appropriate action. But when it settles into an attitude of judgment, it becomes a trap. We get stuck we lose our peace. Curiosity and inquiry can reveal a lot. He says, why am I so angry? Why or where is my attachment to this scenario? Sometimes it's not even about the other people or even about outside events. He says sometimes it's an old bit of history that we project outwards. If we can notice our judgment and see where it points within ourselves, we might find a doorway to our own growth and healing. We may discover a part of the solution to the problem that can cause us to judge. So you've heard the old saying, separate the sin from the sinner. Well, in this case, you separate the act that you observe somebody else doing from your judgment about why they're doing that. So if you can separate that out, so an act that is clearly not helpful to anybody or even outright wrong or evil is still an act that is wrong or evil. But what comes in next is when you start judging why the person did that or why those people did that. If you can accept the fact that this is an act that should not happen, and if I can correct it, I will, rather than judging and saying, well, it's obviously because of their stupid political attitude, or, yeah, people of that religious persuasion, you know, they're always doing stuff like that. If you can separate it out, look at the act on its own, and then if you can rectify things on the act, fine. Doesn't mean to say that people don't get punished for their actions. Doesn't even mean to say that you go to somebody and say, that's a harmful thing that you're doing. But then if you go into judgment about it, that's where it all comes in, and that's where I see it here. Are we all guilty of it? I don't think I know anybody who is not guilty of judgment in some way, shape, or form. Maybe people like the Dalai Lama, I don't know. But I really don't know anybody. So, but the bottom line is, when we have the ability to recognize what we're doing and we built up our spiritual muscle and we can just stop it there and then, that's when we're making progress in the direction of releasing judgment. So, hey, those are my words on Reverend Michael Gott's words, and between the two, I think we get the message, because preachers who preach to other people are missing a huge thing, a huge piece. The message that's being given isn't just for the people out there, it's for the person in here as well, right? So if I don't live up to my words and I don't take notes of the message I'm saying and apply it to my own life, then I'm not much of a preacher, am I? A minister or a priest or a rabbi or an imam or whatever it is in different religions all around the world, or a witch doctor, right? I'm not being much of one if I don't follow my own teachings. So anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. As I said, my colleague Reverend Lisa will be on tomorrow morning at, let me see, she'll be on at 9:15 a.m. Creative Life Spiritual Center will be live at 11 a.m. and those two events will take place on Creative Life Spiritual Center's Facebook page. And you can see me on whatever social media you normally catch me on. And this is it. And what am I going to do now the rest of the day? Well, I am going to go to the gym in about an hour's time. Why? Because the gym is pretty quiet, comparatively speaking, at this time of the day. So that's when myself and my workout buddy, we go down there. And then I'm going to come back and he is going to bring some brie, which has got a lot of good stuff mixed in with it. We're going to heat it up for about 15 minutes in the oven, and then we're going to enjoy that with some crackers, and that should be pretty good evening. And then we'll talk, and then we will talk. And the only problem is, he doesn't understand that 10 o'clock is late. But we'll see what we can do about that. So until next time, namaste.